Okay, so we're here back again for another episode of Kind Inside the Treatment Room. Feeling fresh and energized on a Wednesday morning. How are you feeling, Emma?
Good. I'm excited.
You're nice and comfy and relaxed.
Very comfy.
Yes, perfect. So our guest today is Emma Masters. She is co-founder of Therapy Fitness, as well as many other numerous accomplishments throughout her life. Emma, say hi to all of our guests.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Oh, great. I'm so glad to have you on. It's so much fun. I really am excited to learn more about Therapy Fitness and everything that you've been growing to do as a person and professionally. I reckon let's just dive in. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like to dive in.
So for those that don't know you, give a little bit of a brief introduction of yourself.
Well, Emma Masters. I've been in Australia maybe 14 years now. The time keeps going quite quickly. Originally from the UK. I've been in health and fitness since probably 16, 17 years. Before that I was in musical theatre. So I've had quite a deep dive into a few different careers.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the musical theatre helped me kind of do what I do now, which is create fitness experiences for people that help them feel in a certain way. And that's what I'm really passionate about, is making fitness more than about calorie burn or aesthetics, but instead it be about enhancing people's mood, changing people's state, and it not just be about like all hard or go home. It's actually sometimes about nervous system regulation and emotional fitness, or mental fitness, as well as just always the typical ways that we think about fitness, which is like just smashing yourself in a gym and then going home. So
I see it slowly but surely changing to that dynamic, just getting back to exercise being good for the mind, good for the body, everything like that. So how do you incorporate that into Therapy Fitness?
In lots of ways, and you're right, it is changing now, which is so beautiful to see, because when we started out, when we brought this concept to life, it was, we've been open 3 years. We were talking about it before that for 1.5 years. So 4.5 years ago, at that point, it really wasn't being talked about very much, and it felt like we were ready for an uphill battle. I'd like to think we've been a part of that change, which is really exciting. Like, I'm definitely seeing that change even here on the Gold Coast. Brands that would have perhaps before really been a focus on aesthetics starting to change slightly their messaging and the way that they think about things. And I hope that we've played a small part in helping people see that there's another way.
You have.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so we do that in the studio by completely not talking about calorie burn, about your body, about building buns or shaping or sculpting glutes or abs. We avoid that vocabulary altogether. Instead, we really focus on the way that exercise makes you feel. And so we do that through very immersive settings. So we have 3 studios under one roof in our Mermaid site, and that will look like very different spaces in each. So we have a cycle studio that's got dark walls, white lighting, candlelight, and that's all about joy and euphoria and teamwork and camaraderie as people go through their cycle classes. And then we have our Connect studio, which is our mind-body space. And there we run hot Pilates, hot restorative, as well as breath work and sound healing. And in there, the lighting changes actually along with the chakra colors, or the colors of the rainbow, if you want to look at it like that. Yeah. So it kind of brings in some light therapy, as well as candlelight, smells, incense, different oils. And then again, the musical soundtrack makes a really big change to everything that we do, as well as in cycle and in the other spaces. And so that room's all about introspection, coming back to yourself, connecting back to your body, what's important, blocking out the noise of what's outside those 4 walls. And then our Run Lift studio is our more cathartic space. So that's dark walls, color lighting. It's more like a nightclub when you walk in. Again, the music is a big fundamental part of it. We've got treadmills facing the mirrors, not to kind of judge your looks, but instead be able to face yourself down and say, okay, what am I capable of today? And again, no words in there are about like competition with anybody else or putting yourself down to pull yourself up. All of our instructors are really trained on using the right kind of cueing that actually helps bring the best out of people and, make sure that they feel better walking out when they walked in. And that room, the Run Lift studio, is all about, resilience and running away from what holds you back and feeling strong as you lift the heavy weights. And so each room, as you can kind of already get a feel of, makes you feel slightly different. And so we encourage our members to train for the mood that they're after. And so some days you might feel really stressed, really pent up, really like you just need to lift up something heavy and, cathart that energy. And so the run lift might be your friend, but then maybe other days you're feeling pretty low on energy, or you just need to be introspective, or you just need to find your breath, in which case you're going to move into connect, And so members get to train for their mood, which I really, really like.
Yeah, definitely, because it plays such a big, important role on our day-to-day, our mood, our mental state. So explain to us a little bit more why you thought that was so important, really focusing on exercise to, by the sounds of it, fix more of a mental state with your clients.
Because there's so much research into it. Like, in fact, there's probably more like adequate research and proof around exercise shifting mental state than there is for aesthetics. And yet the whole industry has always focused on it being for weight loss and for you to look a certain way. And of course, there's sectors of the fitness industry that still will need to and continue to do that, like the bodybuilding industry, for example. But for the majority, when we show up to do a fitness class, really what we should be looking at is how it changes our state, and how it affects our mood, because it's going to play a far greater impact on that than it is necessarily, to lose a couple of pounds, And so the research is all backing that, and yet the industry has never focused on it. And that's because, unfortunately, it's easier to sell people into a pain point. It's easier to say, hey, I know you're frustrated with the way that you look, and in fact, maybe even contribute to the frustration and the way that they look, which is another story, and then sell the solution, right? Which is come to us and we're going to help you look this certain way, rather than actually, maybe just telling a different story, which is we're not going to talk about those things. And if you've got aesthetic goals, they'll come. Potentially,
100%,
but or maybe you'll shift the goalpost as well, which is another beautiful thing to watch, which is that people start criticizing themselves less, and they start to build their self-confidence and self-worth, and realize that perhaps they have a body that doesn't need to change. And so, there's lots of different ways that therapy contributes to that, whether it is, just supporting someone more lovingly towards their journey and their goals, or actually helping them achieve great transformation, but not just on the outside, but on the inside too.
Perfect. I absolutely love that. I don't know about you, but I know that I see a lot of women that come in here, and for myself personally, my looks don't necessarily change day to day, week to week, but there are definitely certain times about the month I don't feel good about myself physically, but nothing has changed other than my mental state and my mental perception of myself, and we look at ourselves and we think that we've gained 5 kilos, we think that we've aged 10 years, but nothing's changed but our mental capacity. It's so interesting, isn't it?
Our capacity is a fascinating thing, right? Because we look at, I always like to think of our capacity as like a bucket. And so you could think that in that bucket we hold our stress and our, it really is like our stress and our capacity to hold things, like quite literally. And there's tools that we can use to expand the capacity of that bucket. But until we go anywhere near that, we need to be able to just deal with what we're holding. And so having tools like nervous system regulation tools, like breath work, like down regulation, or even just an instructor that's willing to talk to you about another side of seeing yourself and not put you down to lift you up, but instead just teach you about resilience. All of those things can actually help you, manage the stress within that bucket, or even help dilute some of it and empty it away. And then once you've done that, you're actually capable of increasing the capacity of that bucket as well, and creating the ability to hold more. And so everything is perception, right? If we're not in the right space and we're holding too much already, and then only the tiniest thing can set us off and make us feel rubbish about ourselves. But then if the place that we're going to for safety, so let's say that is our gym, often it's called our third space, right? We live a lot of time in our health and wellness spaces. If that space that you're going to is then actually contributing to you feeling not great about yourself, even if you're not realizing it, but it is through the way that you're being cued, the words that people use, the marketing that place uses, the way that they build their challenges, all of these tiny little things. If you're actually subconsciously or consciously going to that place and actually feeling worse about yourself, well, that's not a great thing, right? Because then all of a sudden that capacity to hold whatever you might be holding on a day-to-day is actually getting worse rather than better.
Yeah. I do speak a lot to my clients about getting the body moving, because it does make such a big difference. And it's not just on a mental capacity. We are talking a lot about our resilience and our perception about things, but just how the body flows. You know, it really helps to release a lot of the fascia that gets tight and wound up within our body, gets the lymphatic system moving, it creates healthy joints. But we've also got these cells within our skin, within our body. It's our immunity cells. And they can really get depleted when we don't take care of it through exercise. Do you find you see that a lot with the clients that come and see you?
I just think everybody feels better when they move, right? Like, it is an automatic shift. And it's definitely not to say that if you're suffering with really poor mental health and you're taking medication for that it's a complete substitute. It can be, but like, that's always an individual journey. However, we always, hands down, will feel better when we move. And there's so much research and data to even back that up, let alone like just the way that we all know that we feel when we actually finally go out and get our body moving, our heart pumping, our blood circulating. And so, yeah, like, I think you notice that be the case with people, but then what I find fascinating is if you create an environment for people where they actually enjoy turning up, they'll keep coming back. And that's, I think, the hardest thing for most people is like this creation of a routine, a creation of a new habit, which is to move their body if they haven't been moving before. And so like creating an environment where they actually want to go is so important, so that like it's an easy step off the couch, right? But if it's like, oh, I don't want to go and sit on that cross trainer, or I don't want to, go to that particular class because I don't actually enjoy it, I'm doing it because I have to, and all of a sudden that becomes such a bigger barrier to people than if they're like, oh my God, I can't wait to go see my favorite instructor, or like laugh at those jokes, or enjoy that music, or I can't wait for that feeling post class that I know is just like a euphoric high. Like, then you're making it very attractive for people, and all of a sudden that habit is much easier to build.
They're chasing that feeling, aren't they? That emotional stimulation to get to it, instead of going, oh, I'm just going to spend the next hour absolutely drilling myself to the absolute max, feeling good probably in the next few days, but getting there is just such a struggle. So you've obviously got people coming in to the studios, and once they're in, they can completely immerse themselves in therapy, fitness, and the other rooms that you were talking about. How do you get them into the studios without that mindset of aesthetic and building the glutes and getting that juicy peach flowing,
What I thought was really interesting is that, in this day and age, you think that that's what everybody wants. And so how can we possibly get people through the door when we're not making that a part of our marketing? Yeah. And I think there are still some people that might not want to come through our doors for that reason, and that's okay. We're just not for them.
Yeah.
But actually, for most people, the reaction that we get is that it's a sigh of relief. It's like, oh my God, finally, somewhere where I don't have to feel like I'm always putting on a show, or I'm always in competition with the next person, or that I'm always having to like look in the mirror and like hate on myself. We're suddenly giving them this environment that they haven't actually been in a really long time, where they're like, oh wow, you're actively encouraging me to let go of those thoughts, and you're actively encouraging me to love myself more. And it's not about, like you say, building or sculpting a body. Instead, it's about shifting a mindset. And I think once they feel that and they've done a couple of classes, it becomes quite addictive, because it's like, oh wow, okay, that place is a place where I actually feel better about myself, and I come home to who I am, and it's not about aesthetics, and it's not about the pressures of the Gold Coast and how I look, and like you say, the pressures of aging or gaining weight, or how I feel about myself. And so, yeah, I think it was even maybe a surprise for us how much people responded to it.
Yeah.
But I think it's because, when you live in a place that actually is highly focused on all of that stuff, it's like an active relief to go somewhere where it's the pressure's taken away.
Taken off of you.
Yeah.
Do you find there's a particular class that people can go to achieve that?
They all do it.
They all do
yeah,
it.
It's like I said before, it's more about what kind of relief you're looking for. Like that more external, cathartic, like quite masculine, like feeling, that's run left, right? But if on a given day you're actually looking for something a bit more kind and gentle, then it's connect, Or if you're looking for like, oh, I just want to feel joy, I want to feel childlike joy and euphoria, and like feeling like a part of a team, that cycle. And I think what I've noticed now that we've been open 3 years is that people kind of go through in cycles, not necessarily day to day, but maybe even like, I don't know, quarter by quarter,
season to season.
Yeah, like I'll see like lots of people gravitate towards one room. And then maybe after 3 or 4 months, I see them kind of gravitate back towards another. And I don't know whether that's subconscious or conscious or intentional, or whether it's they don't even realize they're doing it. But I do like wonder whether it's because, okay, if for that season I really needed this, but now I'm actually looking for more of this in my life. And so I'm gravitating more towards that space.
Okay, yeah. So what have you found recently with summer?
I think people want to sweat more. There's like this real want to like, sweat, get the heart rate up in summer. Like, you know, there's more energy, right? So if you think about the season of summer in terms of like, how you would feel within your body, it's less cocooning and introspection, and it's more extroversion, sweat, energy, celebration. And so actually we have seen a gear switch back towards the cycle studio, which we saw a bit of a downturn, maybe the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
I'm definitely seeing like people gravitating a bit more back towards that again, which makes sense to me, right? As I said, it's about joy and euphoria and teamwork and high fives and extroversion.
Yeah.
So, and then I wonder whether as we hit the winter months, I'll see that kind of downturn a little bit more again, which would be really interesting if I do, you know.
It's so interesting that you say people want to sweat more in summer, because I think you just walk outside and it's like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
It's hot enough. I just want to go someplace to cool.
Yeah.
But it's that energy overflow.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you've already got that blood pumping through you. You're already energized enough. So let's just let it all out in one of those classes. I love that. And what do you find in the winter? Like, what's more popular?
I think cocooning. So like going towards, and again, they're all used all of the time. It's not like any of the studios empty, but it is just that more like, oh yeah, I can feel that slight, you know. And so in winter, I find like the later night classes, especially the breath work and the sound healing, are something people gravitate towards, because they can come in with their like blankets and eye masks and cushions and just cocoon themselves up and breathe and like really come home to themselves in that more introspective way. And so that makes sense to me that would be the case in the winter, you know, when we're in that more introspective mindset, we're in that consideration mode, that more introspective kind of like mindset where they want to come in towards themselves, and maybe also be in that space of like, consideration and like reassessment and you know, what are the seeds that I'm planting before we come back into spring again, you know? And so I think that often happens in winter.
Explain to me more about the breath work that you guys do in studio. Like, is that one-on-one class?
I'm so passionate about breath work.
I love breath work.
You've done some?
I've been through some very intense moments of my life.
Oh, so, good.
Hands down, one of my favourite things to do.
And I think breath work is such an incredible tool that we have with us all the time. It's in our back pocket. We don't have to, we don't think about it day to day. It's an unconscious action, right? But the magic happens is when we bring that unconscious action into the conscious, right? When we actually start to manipulate the breath in a way where we can actually change our state. And so I just love to watch, you know, the direct correlation between our state and the breath that anybody can witness. So if you're unsure, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't know how breath work can possibly be this magic. Just notice for a moment, like how you breathe when you're stressed or overwhelmed. And you'll notice that the breath is up in the chest. You're shallow breathing. You're most likely breathing more through the mouth, right? And then if we're calm and in that rest and digest and super chilled, laying on the couch, we'll notice that the breath is low, slow and deep into the belly, through the nose. So that direct correlation with the breath in that direction actually works in the opposite direction. They're that correlated. So what I mean by that is that if we are super stressed and anxious, we can manipulate the breath to be lower, slower, deeper through the nose, and it will change our state. And so if we are about to walk into a dentist appointment or a really big meeting and we notice that we're feeling that onset of anxiety that, you know, I'm sure we can all relate with, if you just stop for 2 or 3 minutes and breathe slow, and that's all it really is. There's lots of techniques you can apply to that, right? Lots of different kind of breath rhythms, 4-7-8, box breathing, all of those things. But essentially what you're doing in that moment is slowing down the breath. And by doing that, we get to be the remote control to our nervous system, and we start to feel calmer, less anxious, because the breath has that direct correlation to the nervous system. And so that's probably the most obvious state of breath work that we talk about. Like, You know, if you download an app to do breath work or meditation, that's the kind of breath techniques you're often being taken through, right? The slower, lower, deeper breathing to help you sleep or be less anxious or whatever. But I also love watching the magic that happens when we start to increase the rate of breath intentionally. And so when we start to pick up the rate of breath in a faster pace, and you might have heard this be called like holotropic breathing or conscious connected breathing. It's all the same thing. Again, essentially, there can be different names attributed to it, but essentially what we're doing is breathing faster than a regular rate of breath. And when we do that, we're oxygenating the blood. We're able to dial down the prefrontal cortex, which is that beautiful overthinking part of the mind. And we're able to access the limbic system, the emotional center. And when we do that, this is where kind of like, I think the spirituality meets the science.
Yes.
And we're able to create some real shifts and transformations for people. And so when we're able to dial down the prefrontal cortex and access the limbic system, what happens is we've got access to some of these stress or trauma loops that we haven't completed in our lives. And the easiest way to explain what's happening there for me is I want you to imagine that you're on your way to work and you bump somebody in the car, and immediately you like that fight or flight nervous system gets switched on, right? You're like,
Yes.
and you feel like all frazzled and you want to cry, and then you get out and there's somebody angry at you and you're swapping details and like, blah, 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 and then you get back in the car, right? In that moment, our natural human thing to do is, okay, get it together. I've got to go to work. I zip up all of that energy that's just been created by all the hormones and neurotransmitters that got vaulted around my body because I got pushed into my fight or flight really quick.
Yeah.
And I push it all the way. I go, all right, get on, got to go to work, got to go do my clients or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And what happens in that moment is we don't do what we should be doing, is completing that stress loop or that trauma loop.
Okay.
And so we are meant to discharge that energy. And so what that could look like in that moment is maybe a big old cry in the car, or like really literally quite shaking it off, you know, and then coming into some slow, deep breaths and bringing ourselves back to our body and then getting on with our day. But we so often don't do that, right? But
we trap it in, we
trap it in, we push it away. And we know that there is a natural response to this. We can watch animals in the wild. Like if you can actually YouTube this. If you watch like a zebra getting caught by a lion in the wild, but it survives, you'll watch this kind of like transition through the different states of the nervous system, where it will like go from fight or flight to freeze to then this kind of shaking of the body where it's discharging all of the energy. It'll then breathe slowly, and then it'll be back at its rest and digest and get on with its day. But because of our incredible, but sometimes problematic prefrontal cortex, it's a very smart part of our brain, but it's very developed in us humans, and it likes to create stories, and it likes to analyze, and it likes to keep us safe and zip things away. And that's what it's doing in that moment. It's not letting us do our sort of almost natural animalistic response, which is to discharge the energy, and instead it kind of zips it away into the body or the nervous system.
Okay.
And so when that happens, you know, over time, we're storing all of this excess energy in the body, and that could lead to poor behaviors, illness, all of these kind of things. And so to come back to the breath, when we're able to go through a bigger, deeper breath ceremony where we are picking up the rate of breath, where we're dialing down prefrontal cortex and gaining access to the limbic system, we're actually able to complete some of these stress loops or trauma loops. And what that will look like in people is maybe physical energy. So you might like shake vigorously, or you might need to move the body, or you might feel energy in the body moving through you, or you might feel in a whole range of emotions. You might feel the need to cry. You might feel the need to get angry or scream. Basically, it's just this energy being discharged from your body. And so people may have seen that on, you know, Instagram, where you're seeing all these crazy videos of people like flipping around on the floor, or, you know, screaming, and people are like, oh my God, what the hell is that? That's ridiculous.
Like exorcism is about to happen.
But honestly, all it is this very natural response, like where the body feels safe enough and you put it in an environment where it can access the ability to complete these motions, these little stress response loops, or these little trauma loops. And so we're doing our body a great service, our nervous system a great service in these moments, because we're able to discharge that energy and it no longer lives within us.
Can you explain to me more just about like the fast paced breathing? Because I've always done like a lot of slow, deep breath type of breath work.
Yeah.
And I've always been quite scared to do the really fast paced breathing, because I don't want to sounds ridiculous saying this out loud. I don't want to pass out.
No,
You
yeah.
know, I've seen those videos where they sort of hyperventilate themselves and then they just lose consciousness. Or
So it's really important, first of all, to definitely go to a practitioner that is trauma informed, is fully trained in breath work, because you know, it is just fast breathing essentially, but it also needs to be guided and not dove into too deeply or quickly, right? Because you shouldn't be hyperventilating. That's not the style of breath. It is a conscious, connected breath, which just means that we're breathing in and out in a connected way. So we're not creating that space between the inhale and the exhale. But it's still a full, deep breath. It's still quite rhythmic. And it doesn't have to be like crazy fast like you see on some of these videos. It is just this over-oxygenating of the blood. And so it can feel quite beautiful in a way, you know, like a... Whereas if you're... that is kind of like hyperventilating, like you're hyperventilating, in which case like the body might react to that in a slightly different way, you know? And so, yeah, it's really important that it's well guided and that you're with a practitioner that understands the breath and has been well trained and is trauma informed and all of those things. And yeah, if it's guided correctly, it can be such a beautiful experience. We hold them monthly at therapy, and I just take 8 people in like a deeper ceremony. So we breathe for about an hour, but the whole thing is 2.5 hours. There's cacao. It's done in a really ceremonial setting. And it's just beautiful to witness people's journeys when we do that.
And is there one set class for the breath work, or are there different types?
Yeah, so we weekly have classes. So the transformative breakthrough breath work is once a month. That's on a Sunday afternoon. But then weekly we hold 2 different types of breath classes. We have they're both called Heal on the timetable. So you'll see Heal Restore and Heal Release. Heal Release is like a teeny mini version of that style of breath that we just spoke about, but it's in very small blocks. So in a big breakthrough session, we might breathe like that for about an hour. So it is intense. There's a lot of work in breath work in that session. Whereas in Heal Release, we breathe like that for maybe like 3 minutes. And then we follow it by a series of things like breath holds and releases, and it can just feel very cathartic for the body. You might still get emotional release in that shorter period of time, but it's certainly not as deep or as strong. And so that's a really beautiful class. It's 45 minutes. We do sort of 3 or 4 rounds of the faster breath with breath holds, and then we complete it with 15 minutes of sound healing and meditation to kind of integrate and bring you back down to earth. And then there's Heal Restore, which is all down regulation. So that's just all your low, slow, deep breathing. And then that's followed by, again, 15 minutes of sound healing and meditation. So that's just a really beautiful restorative class.
And how would you feel post-class?
I just think in your body is the easiest thing I can say. Like, I think we spend so much of our day living outward. We are constantly connected to our phones, to our computers, to people, like more so than we ever have been. You think you skip back even 30, 40 years, we would have never been this connected.
No.
Now we're like constantly connected and constantly stressed and constantly with that stress bucket full, you know? And so I think classes like this are just a moment out of your day to empty some of that stress from the stress bucket and just bring your awareness inward where it's been outward all day, you know? So the breath kind of just brings us back to the body. It helps regulate the nervous system so we feel a lot calmer, a lot more grounded, a lot more connected. And so whether you've done sort of a release class, if you felt like you need to discharge some energy, and so that release class will really help with that before you drop into the sort of parasympathetic, or if you're just feeling completely, you know, worn out and depleted, and so therefore the restore class might just be better where you just get to relax the entire time, you know? And again, much like all of our fitness classes, it's about what do I need today? Do I need to upregulate before I downregulate? Do I need to meet myself where I'm at with a bit of faster breath before I come bring it down? Or am I just in need of absolute nourishment in this moment and just like, I'm just going to breathe slowly, low, deep and just enjoy this moment, you know?
Is it beneficial to like combine the breath work with an exercise class?
I see that a lot. I guess, you know, I just talked about how like sometimes we need to meet ourselves where we're at. In this kind of really busy world, to ask somebody to straight away sit down, breathe slow, that's really hard for people because people are like, I'm thinking at 1,000 miles an hour, I can't switch my mind off, I feel fidgety, and And so to do an exercise class first, you're kind of doing what maybe a small amount of fast breathing would do, the same kind of thing, really, in the terms of the breath. We're bringing ourselves into sympathetic. But what that does is it's kind of cool because it almost meets you where you're at. So if you're having a really highly charged day, meet yourself with that highly charged exercise, dispel all of that energy, and then come into a state of calm. It can be super powerful because you're then laying down to breathe once you've worn the body out a little bit, once you've discharged some of that like crazy sympathetic energy. So you're actually far, far more likely to be able to bring yourself into that parasympathetic state because you've let go of some of that kind of highly wound charge. And so like that, you know, if we look at yoga, that's the point of yoga, right? We get to the shavasana through the asana because we're wearing out the body so that we can find rest. And so like, you know, that's no real different there to like a high intensity class followed by breathing for 45 minutes. We're able to do that same thing. And so I see a lot of people double up in that way. They might do like a cycle class into a breath work or a cycle class into a yin class. And so they're kind of creating that balance for themselves.
So for you personally, how do you ground yourself back into your own self-worth and go, you know, this is me, I love me for who I am. How do you get back to that state in an industry, in an environment here where we live, where it's so aesthetically focused?
It's hard. It's hard. And I try to be as open as I can be, like with my personal struggles through life. Like I've suffered through eating disorders and, you know, being in musical theatre followed by the health and fitness industry. It's kind of been two industries where I've really been battered over the head with this need to really judge myself and look at the aesthetics of who I am and blah, blah, blah. But I do think that that's contributed to then my life's purpose and mission, which is to help people overcome that. I think it's about practicing what you preach, you know, like I'm going to be highly wound up and not able to give as much to my members if I don't practice breath work, if I don't find moments of stillness, if I don't have my own personal practice, if I don't spend 30 minutes before class breathing and grounding, you know. And so it's about having those personal moments for me before I give to others. Otherwise, again, my cup will be too full and I can't possibly put anything else in there. My stress bucket will overflow, you know. And so I think especially over the last sort of post-COVID, as we've really all been transitioning into this idea of balance and restoration, and is about also making sure that I practice what I preach, and I do the same for myself, you know.
Well, because as therapists, we're not perfect and we still are humans. So we also need to remember we can't go 1,000 miles an hour and still think that we can give out to other people, because that's our days. We give to people constantly, day in, day out. So we need to be able to be really attuned to ourselves, but also kind to ourselves in the sense that, all right, I am human. There are going to be moments where I just don't feel like giving it, but I have to find a way to be able to recenter myself to give to people, because that's what we do.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely there's going to be some days that are easier than others.
Very much so.
But it's about listening, isn't it? I mean, I can definitely get better at this myself, but like listening to my body, not pushing when I know that I need to rest, you know, helping people understand that we're human too, and that if we need to take time for ourselves, then we really need to, you know, like setting those boundaries sometimes. I think they're important. Like, and it is hard in a service-based industry where that's the expectation, right, is that you're giving, and that it's, you know, it's not about me when I'm in that space. You know, I'm there for them. Everything I say and do is to contribute to their experience. It's not about me. And so how do you balance that with also making sure that you don't burn out? You know?
Is there anything that you do health or wellness wise to be able to support that?
I have really, and well, I'm now learning to become a server, a practitioner of tea ceremony. It's so beautiful. Yes. It's not hugely well known everywhere. I think it will be. I'm really excited to start serving.
Please let me know.
Yeah, I will.
Tea fanatic.
I will.
That just makes my day. Just sitting out in the garden having a cup of tea.
It's so beautiful, and the history of that. You know, whether you look at, you know, the Asian countries that have used tea ceremony for years and years and years, but then even I look to my own heritage being English and how we've always used tea.
It's sort of like it's a social aspect, but
Yeah.
then it's also a meditative aspect as
Yes,
well.
both of those things that the world so desperately needs right now, right? Connectivity to each other
Connectivity,
and stillness, enough to listen inwards and know that we're not our thoughts and we can come back to our bodies. And so I think tea is going to become a medicine that is like a lot more spoken about. And I'm really excited to start sharing that because I've made it my own personal practice probably for the last 2 years, where I take myself through tea ceremony nearly every morning if I can. And then I'm learning now through teachers in Taiwan to share that and create tea ceremony for others, which in itself has been a huge part of my growth and learning, because you can't be a server of tea until you are empty, because you need to be like able to hold this incredible space of stillness and awareness and presence, which means you can't bring your shit onto the tea table, you know?
Yes.
Whereas I think when I'm teaching class, of course, there's always an element of that, you know, to a degree. I can't bring my stuff in. As I said, it's about them, not me. But you certainly can be able to multitask somewhat when you're teaching, you know, and thinking about perhaps your day or what you got next, or you become a master of that almost. But and I'm sure you recognize that too, right?
Oh, yes.
Like you try and be as present as you can be with your clients, but there is an ability to also be in two places at once, right?
100%, yes.
But with tea, it's just not possible. You have to be empty. You have to be so present and so in reverence of the ceremony. And so for me to be able to learn how to do that, it's my own personal journey, right? Of being able to be in meditation for an hour, to be able to still my mind completely, to be able to be present. And so I'm so excited to kind of go on that journey with tea.
Yes.
And I'm hoping to start serving around middle of the year if all goes well. So
Is that something you'll share on socials
Yeah.
when it's ready?
Yeah.
Alright, guys, watch this. It's something fun. I love that. And where do you think you'll hold it, or are you still sort of working out those types of tweaks?
yeah, a few ideas in the pipeline with therapy that we're hoping to manifest this year. But if not, definitely at the current site as well. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be some real medicine for people.
Lovely, good. And is that the only thing that you do for yourself, health and wellness wise?
Move for myself is also important. I move a lot for everybody else because our classes are pretty active. So getting my own strength training in is important, especially as we age. It's a big buzzword at the moment, but it's not just hype. Getting as strong as possible is so important, especially for us women.
It's linked to Alzheimer's, isn't it?
Yeah, and osteoporosis, and it just in general, your general strength and fitness as you age. You know, like I want to live to over 100, be bouncing around, you know, being able to get up and down off the floor, to be able to pick things up, take care of myself, and you know that starts with absolutely building a foundation of strength. So we're about to launch a 6-week strength challenge, which is exciting. And I'm committing to doing it with the members. So that'll be my own personal movement practice where I'm not teaching. I'll go into others' classes and take part in this challenge with everybody else, because I know that I need to make it a priority for me as well.
So for those not naming names, me, that just haven't given themselves enough time to exercise, I did try to get into Pilates last year, but it's just a time thing.
Very
so
busy.
I'm just weak. Like my muscle mass is just non-existent. So how would I go in one of those strength classes?
You would be fine. And I think it's about getting yourself through the door, right? That is the hardest part. It's the confidence, which, you know, we know we're not getting enough of Australia moving. You are not on your own here. You know, like the stats are really saddening, actually. We still need to get so many more people moving. But there is an intimidation, exactly like you just said, like, oh, would I even be able to do it, right? But the answer is absolutely yes. You know, you're in charge of the weights that you pick up. We have like dumbbells that range from 4 kilos. And so you would just start there. You could go body weight if you wanted to, just learning some of the movements and the exercises.
Okay.
And then every class, maybe you just check in. Could I go a little bit heavier? Maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. And the beautiful thing, again, not trumping our own, whatever it is, porn.
This is where it gets tricky after you've done the massage. Your brain just goes, shut it down.
I mean, I make up words quite a lot of the time as well. but is that, you know, we try as best we can to make our environment inclusive and non-intimidating and help people realize that even though, yeah, like for instance, the Run Lift Studio is about running and lifting weights, you can literally start by walking on the treadmill and body weight movement. Like there is no expectation. There is absolutely no pressure from our instructors or from anyone around you. Everyone is so supportive. And we have people in our space from 18 to 70, you know, and everybody has a way of completing their movement and starting. And I've seen people go from absolutely sedentary to 7 classes a week. You know, it's such a beautiful thing to witness. And I hope that's because we advertise and market a space that makes people feel like they're welcome and that they can achieve anything if they put their mind to it, you know? And so, yeah, just start.
Perfect time to start.
Just start.
Of a new year as well.
Yeah. Put the foot through the door and see how actually it's not as crazily scary as you thought it would be, you know?
And when does that commence?
That's February 1st. So we start this Sunday. But those classes run all the time. So it's not like you couldn't, you know, start your journey at any point. This is just sort of a bit of a 6-week challenge where we're going to have some extra workshops and talk about nutrition and hormones and things like that. But our strength classes, as well as all our classes, run all year round. So you can jump in at any time.
So good. For those that want to know more about therapy fitness, you know, they can jump onto the website, jump onto the socials, even straight onto Emma's social. She's got a link in her bio, which takes you straight there. I love everything that we've spoken about today. But I do want to pivot a little bit to you and your skin, because we are giving you a facial. You know,
hopefully it's lovely and glowing.
Oh, it's very glowing at the moment. But what do you do for your skin on a daily basis?
Look, I'm a bit rubbish. And I think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like I've got good genes with my skin. And that I remember my nan always talking about how she would only ever use a bar of fairy soap and water. Soap? Yeah, it's like an English soap, like just like a bar of soap.
Okay.
Like literally a bar of soap. And maybe some Nivea cream that she would just use for her face and body. And she always had the most beautiful skin. So it's definitely nothing I'm doing that like I've found a great formula. It's probably just great luck. So yeah, I wash my face in the shower and then then I like to be really natural as possible. So I don't like to use any harsh chemicals or things like that. And so I've created a lot of my own oils. So I use like jojoba oil and some frankincense or sweet orange. And then I've got like a few other bits and pieces in there, rosehip and stuff like that. And I kind of make up my own little formula in a bottle and whack that on.
Love it. I love a little bit of cosmetic chemistry.
Alchemy.
Yeah. Do you have any concerns or issues with your skin that you wanted me to talk about?
Oh, I've got some pigmentation. Sorry, actually, I have some pigmentation now. I think that's from this glorious Australian sun.
And when did you start to see that?
Oh, I reckon a couple of years ago it started, but it's definitely got worse. And then, of course, you know, I'm aging, so there's a few wrinkles now. We're just trying to love those.
Very minimal. So with the pigmentation, are you using a zinc?
No.
No. Have you ever used a zinc?
I was in like sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I have got some.
I've got some. It's in the kitchen bench.
And I will use that when I remember.
Yeah, perfect. So the one thing that you can do for your skin, especially if pigmentation is a concern of yours, is get started on a zinc. Okay, 30 to 50 plus in our climate, because our UV index is
so bad, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, I think the lowest we ever go down to is like a 7 throughout the day, and that's still really high. So I can recommend you all the pills, potions, and treatments, but if you're not using a zinc, it is money sort of spent going down the drain.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to create that physical blocker. There are many things the UV does to our skin besides just creating pigmentation with our melanocytes. It also stimulates enzymes to break down our collagen and our elastin. So that's when you're starting to see fine lines and wrinkles. And you're also destroying what's called your Langerhans cells, which is an immunity cell within your skin. So over time, you know, you're still quite young now, but give it 10 to 15 years, you'll start to see your skin reacting a lot more. It'll become a little bit more red and inflamed. You know, that menopausal stage of life, you might start to see a little bit of acne, a little bit of rosacea come up. because of that extra exposure with the sun.
Putting it on.
Putting
She
it on,
sold me.
100%. It's
going on.
just as important as brushing your teeth. I tell everyone that. If you're not going to walk out of the house without brushing your teeth, don't walk out of the house without sunblock.
I love
and
that.
it has to be zinc. So it cannot be a chemical sunscreen. It's just not a physical blocker. It doesn't work the same.
No, I do
it
have
still
some.
protects you, but it's not the same as a zinc. So pop that on. Hydration, I can see that you're definitely getting a lot with the oils that you're using. That's so good. What are we washing the face with?
Whatever's in the shower. I am washing my face. But usually just like the shower gel.
Okay, so you wash.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to stop that. We don't want to be stripping your pH.
Okay,
for sure.
okay, yeah.
It can be very stripping a body wash. I'm assuming it's a clean, natural one.
Yes.
No? Okay, that's good. We're not putting harsh chemicals on. But we just want to swap to, you can even just use your jojoba oil that you haven't mixed up, because it's more of an ester. It's not a thick oil, so it's not going to sit heavy on the skin. So you would use that good pre-cleanse, do a good 60 seconds, moving that all around the skin.
Yeah.
Get a warm muslin cloth for afterwards, and then wipe that all off so there's no residue. Okay? Then we're starting fresh. Why that's important? Obviously dirt, bacteria, pollutants, everything that's sitting in the pores. But we want to stimulate a little bit of cell turnover. As we get into that 30 to 40-year-old section. Our cell turnover goes from 28 days to almost 2 months.
Oh gosh.
Okay, and then when we hit 50s, it goes up to 3 months. So your cell turnover slows down. And that's when all your cells, skin cells, start to build up and up on top of each other, and they just don't desquamate off naturally. Okay? So that's what's going to help to keep the skin nice and glowing as well. But other than that, let's just start with those two basics.
Okay.
Good cleanser.
Start with the simple things that most
simple
people do
things.
already.
Keep it simple. I love it. Really good cleansing routine, morning and night, and a zinc every single day.
Okay, I can do those two things. I'm in.
I'll see you in a few months. and I'll
Okay.
see
You'll
how that's
judge me.
progressing. Yeah.
You'll see.
Do you do any facial massage or any gua sha?
Yes.
Home?
Yeah, I do like gua sha.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just use because I sauna a lot, so I might just do it in the sauna. Oh, sorry, I sauna with I just might do it with my hands.
Yeah. Perfect.
Feels quite
How
nice.
would you use it?
As in what do you mean?
Like, how do you use your gua sha? Is it like lymphatic drainage? Are we moving it out? Like, is it a soft or is it hard?
Probably harder than you were just doing.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want to achieve with the gua sha?
I don't know, just perkiness.
Perkiness. Okay, so I'll give you a little trick.
Yeah,
with
do
gua
it.
sha, because it's a massaging tool at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Okay. The lighter you press, and when we start on the center of the face working outwards, you can really give yourself a lymphatic activation and a lymphatic drainage. Okay. So I'll show you just underneath the eyes. If you were to press lightly and slowly glide it out to your lymph node, which is near your temple. So you would do that about 20 times each side.
Yeah.
Same for above the eyebrow. Just very lightly.
That light, eh?
That light.
I am definitely
Yeah.
going 20 times harder.
Mind
than
you, this is just for lymphatic drainage.
Yeah.
And so we drain it out and down to the lymph nodes down at the collarbone. Okay, once again, about 20 times on each side. Do that to begin with.
Yeah.
Get that lymph activating, get all of that fluid that's stuck just flowing through your lymphatic system, especially while you're in sauna. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That will automatically depuff you and make you feel a little bit lifted. If you want to sculpt, then you press a little bit further. Okay? Are there any areas of concern that you want to sculpt?
Maybe like this part.
Yeah, beautiful. So the midsection of the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got your nasal labial folds, and as we age, when our fat loss actually just starts to happen as we get older, that helps to just sag everything down. We don't want that. We want to help to lift everything back up. So the gua sha is really good just to get into that muscle. Press it a little bit firmer to help relax it. So you'll find the fold of the skin, and you're just pressing a little bit above.
Just
there.
above it.
Yeah. Do you get many sinus issues? Any
You know what I
blockages?
do?
Yeah.
Especially when I'm teaching in the hot room and if I'm upside down, like I sometimes completely block my ears. I think it's because the sweat is all running up into my sinuses.
So this will be a really good drainage for your Eustachian tube. Okay, so you'll start to feel a lot better with your sinuses. One thing you'd like to work on as well is the jawline, because that always makes everyone look snatched. What I felt with your skin was just more underneath the skin where the muscle is your fascia. And we want to just help to break that down because it's quite tight at the moment. Whether we're clenching
my
our
jaw,
sleeve,
maybe, yeah.
But if we don't release that, then our jowls are going to start to sag. So if I run my fingers along here, you can feel a little bit of grittiness. Okay, so that's what we want to work on. Grab your gua sha once you put your oils on, hold the skin tight, and just work it back and forth. It's still not extremely hard. We don't need to be tearing.
No, you were. I was probably tearing. You will lift.
You will lift and you'll do what I say. And just the other side, so hold the skin tight. And just work it. Do you feel that grittiness underneath the skin? If you were to do this for a few minutes every day, that'll become less and less. And hold it tight again, moving along the jawline. You will see such a definition in your jawline if you were to do that every day. You would spend a little bit longer at home. I'd probably say about 2 minutes in total.
And you're kind of going across this part, not underneath.
Not underneath.
Just like here.
So you've got the little gua sha, it's got a heart shape. And I do like to use that on the jawline because you're working above. You're working on the jawline and you are working underneath where it's needed to be. We don't want to go too low down where we're, pushing into the lymph nodes themselves, but also we're protecting our thyroid. Okay. So you just want to work along that jawline. That's a good one there. Working back and forth. Alright, I'm just going to finish you off with some SPF zinc.
Zinc's going on?
Zinc's going on. This is our new best friend. Any questions though in regards to this?
That was great. Thanks.
I appreciate you coming in and just explaining a little bit more about that. I just feel so many people need to feel comfortable in their own bodies, but comfortable moving their bodies. It's not about getting on that treadmill and losing 20 pounds or whatnot within a week. You just got to do it to make yourself feel good, physically and mentally. So I appreciate you coming in to talk about that.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome.
Are we going to get you in for a sesh?
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
Start slow, start gentle.
Yeah.
You don't want to kill me. But I think it's definitely the place to start. I feel like it would be such a comfortable place for someone who hasn't exercised in a long time or is just a little bit nervous to get back into it. So that's good. How's your skin feeling?
Beautiful.